So first, some housekeeping. Bathrooms are down the hall, right before the stairwell on the right. There's also restrooms upstairs. There are, in the case we're asked to evacuate, there's an exit over on this wall and out that door and out the front. So before we get started, I'd like to thank everyone who made this possible. Our elected officials that are here and their staffers. Thank you to President Trummer and Columbia-Greene Community College for being just the best supporters and always so gracious and letting us use this space. Thank you to the Columbia-Greene Workforce Development Board for their hard work and continued support of the office. Thank you to Mike Tucker and James Hannes and their teams at Greene and Columbia EDCs for joining us to discuss the economic state of the county and their continued partnership and dedication to workforce development. And lastly, thank you to the workforce office staff, Jeanette O'Neill, Holly Wannick, Rebecca Pruser, and Daniel Paleski, who pretty much made this event possible. I played a very small role in the planning, so it really was them, and they deserve all of the credit. So I'm also going to put a little shameless plug in for the workforce office. The workforce office is a resource for job seekers, businesses, community organizations, and government. We provide labor market data. We can provide support with ADA compliance through our disability resource coordinator. We can provide on-the-job and incumbent worker training for people that are eligible, for businesses that have employees that need upskilling. We can provide organizational recruitment and retention support. And these roundtables that have been a way to start the discussions that I hope will help lead counties forward. If anyone has any ideas for future roundtables or a forum that they'd like us to present at, we'd be happy to do that. So today I'm going to be a bit of a noisy moderator, I think, and do some talking first, and then we'll turn it over to Mike and James to do some short presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. So the first thing I'd like to address is the idea that no one wants to work. This idea isn't new, but it's seen a resurgence since the pandemic and the additional UI and support from the government kind of disincentivize people returning to the labor market. A lot of people I talk to continue to think that the current labor shortage is a result of people simply not wanting to go back to work. But honestly, I think the situation is probably a little worse than that. Everyone is working, and our prime working age population is disappearing. And it's creating a situation where there's simply not enough people to fill positions in Columbia-Greene County. This is compounded by the effect on local businesses and employers because the shortage of labor has also increased the cost of labor. Employers can't fill positions, and they're paying substantially more for the labor that they can find, and that labor is generally less skilled. On top of that, the economic growth that the counties have seen over the past few years, thanks to offices like Mike and James's, has created a higher demand for labor and created more jobs in the counties. On the surface, this is a really terrific situation to be in, right? Substantial economic growth, low unemployment, higher wages for working people. They sound like really great problems to have, but under the veneer of prosperity are real problems that we're going to have to deal with. So employers are paying more for employees with fewer skills to fill more jobs in an already strapped labor market. So with that said, and kind of tucked away in the back of your mind, we'll look at some statistics. All of the statistics I'm going to pull from are from New York Department of Labor or the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And I'll be happy to share sources if anybody's interested. I want to put that out there. Just let me know and I'll have them share it with you. So Columbia County has a labor force of 31,200 people. Of that, 30,400 are employed, leaving 800 people in Columbia County that are currently unemployed, according to the Department of Labor. Greene County's labor force is about 20,600 people, of which 19,900 are employed. So there's about 700 people in Greene County that are currently unemployed. The combined labor force, 51,800 people, of which 50,300 of them are employed, leaving a total of 1,500 people across both counties that are counted as unemployed, a total unemployment rate of 3%. So when we think about people not wanting to work, I think it's important that we realize there are only 1,500 people across both counties that are currently unemployed. So how many jobs are there for those 1,500 people, right? According to Lightcast economic models, which is what we use to do a lot of our data collection, there are 4,600 job postings across Columbia and Greene counties. By that count, there's more than 2 to 1, more than two jobs for every unemployed person in Columbia and Greene counties. And that's just jobs that are posted on the internet. The economic models don't pull from other sources. They don't pull from the mom and pop businesses that don't post on the internet. They don't look for under the table jobs or employers that just stop posting because they can't fill positions, and it's just not worth the trouble to keep posting these same positions over and over again. So if you count all of the other jobs that aren't getting pulled from the internet, it's not far-fetched to think that there are 3 jobs for every single person in Columbia-Greene County that's unemployed. So what's that done to wages? And I think anyone who owns a business or employs people, that's been a huge part of the discussion over the past few years. Low labor supply and high labor demand is upward pressure on wages. So I'm sure everyone's heard the stories of McDonald's paying $20 an hour or Walmart overnight stock positions that are paying $22 an hour. So according to the economic model, of these 4,600 job postings, 48% advertised wages, with a median advertised salary of $34 an hour, and the modal salary being $25 an hour. So if you're a business competing with every other business in Columbia and Greene counties, it's important to know that the most common posted salary across job postings is $25 an hour. So how did this happen? How did we get here? Just a few years ago, things were tough for employers, but not nearly as tough as it is now. So I wasn't going to include a PowerPoint, but as I was pulling data, I found 2 charts, and hopefully my mouse will let me get there. And I'll just pull it up really quick. I'm not going to go into the presentation mode. So this is a graph of our population from 2017 and then projected out to 2026 or so. So you can see there's a 4% increase since 2017 and a projected 6.5% increase in population. So if we then look at, so this is our labor participation rate. So over that same period that we're projected to have a 6.5% growth in population, we've had almost a 10% drop in our labor participation rate. So labor participation rate is the total labor force over the population. So the number of people that are actively engaged in the labor market in Columbia. So if our population is going up, you would expect that our labor participation rate would at least stay even, right? But that's not what the graphs are showing, right? We have a situation where the people that are coming to the counties, the people that are moving in, that are growing our populations, are participating in our labor force. And to compound that, they're also displacing the working families that have been here that have traditionally filled those positions. So anyone that's talked to me over the past 3 years that I've been in this role has heard me say this probably every time. We've displaced working families and we're replacing them with people that do not fill jobs here. They don't work in our hotels, they don't work in our hospitals, our gas stations, our emergency services, our departments of public works, or any of the other jobs that our communities desperately need filled. What happens when there's no one to do the work? How does an economy that James and Mike have created that's booming, have helped to support a booming economy in Columbia and Greene County, how do we sustain that when there's no one to wash the dishes and there's no one to take care of us in our nursing homes? When there's no one to take care of our loved ones, when there's no one to respond to our police and fire emergencies, how do we possibly sustain an economy, especially one that's based on hospitality and tourism, when there's no one to make the beds in the hotels and there's no one to wash the dishes at the restaurants? So that was my doom and gloom 10 minutes. So there's,
you're at a restaurant offered to do the dishes.
there you go, tell them Mike Tucker's saying that. So, but there is some hope, right? There is something that businesses can do. Maybe hope is too strong a word. I don't think anyone would describe me as hopeful when I talk about this. But employers need to focus on retention. There are not people to take these positions. You have to keep the people that you have happy. You have to make sure they don't leave you. You're in competition with every other business across 3 or 4 or 5 counties at this point. And even across the world, like remote work has put our labor force in competition with labor around the world, with businesses around the world. You're in competition with Silicon Valley, you're in competition with Google, you're in competition with Facebook, you're in competition with everyone. And it's important that you hold on to the talent that you have. That's the #1 suggestion that I would give to anyone who employs people. Keep your employees happy as you can, so they don't leave. And you're really in competition with businesses you didn't even ever consider being in competition with. There are also some untapped markets. Our office has focused really heavily in the past couple of years on training people experiencing disabilities. People with disabilities have probably the lowest unemployment rate across New York State, and Danielle could nod yes or no, so I'm going to stick to that stat. It's an incredibly high unemployment rate for people with disabilities. Our office has focused on training and upskilling people that have disabilities that are currently employed or are looking to enter the labor force, and worked with businesses to talk to them about the benefits of hiring people that are experiencing disabilities and the ways that a business can work with those people and the agencies that support them to tap a previously untapped market that has not been traditionally engaged. New Americans, immigrants, and asylum seekers is another terrific opportunity for us. I know that there's been, I'd like to avoid the political connotations of that discussion if that's at all possible. But I think there are people that want jobs, that want to be here. The difficulty that we have, especially in this area, is where do we house those people? And how do we assist them in becoming employment eligible? And how do we help them make that transition from asylum seeker to person who's employed and engaged in our labor force? And I think those are questions for our office, but also for the community at large. And are we willing to have a welcoming atmosphere for people that are seeking asylum in the United States, and engage those people and bring them into our communities and provide, and not only exploit them for their labor, which is at the end of the day, I think what the discussion really is, but also build a community that's sustainable for us and for our children if they can stay, if they can afford to actually stay in. Also, train the people that you have. Part of retention, if you have someone in your mailroom or that's mopping your floors, that is a loyal employee, that's capable and comes to work every day and has a smile on, train that person, invest in that person, and help that person get into a better, higher situation and position in your organization. And lastly, leverage technologies. AI, and I know AI is another sort of divisive topic, but use of AI in your business will multiply your productivity and multiply the productivity of your employee. I've been talking a lot about leveraging AI in business and at the college, and the workforce is working on a presentation, another one of these roundtables that will talk about how businesses can leverage AI and leverage those technologies to increase the productivity of the employees that you have. So, and lastly, before I turn it over, right at 15 minutes. So advocate, talk to the people that represent you. It's important that the people in our local and our state governments understand the situation on the ground so they can make the best decisions to support you and your business and the people that work here. So collectively, your advocacy efforts will probably be more effective, but individually, write letters and write emails to your representatives and advocate for the positions that you want them to support. So with that said, thank you. That's my time. And I will then pass it over to Mr. James Hanna. And I won't leave these graphs up for them. Yeah. Thank you.
Going up.
Good morning. My name is James Hanna. Thank you for the introduction, Chris. I am the Executive Director of the Greene County Economic Development Corporation, as well as the Director of Economic Development for Greene County. So I'm private and public path. I'm going to put all the back and forth really covered my county. Thinking that perhaps what we should do is
sustainable rural economy requires a comprehensive approach that considers various
Yeah, that's it, that's it.
Let me go back and forth. I think we both want a quick overview of our organization, so, know what to come and see us for, but first I want to thank, Chris Nardone, for his leadership and his vision and his continual focus on the issues that address not only the workforce, but as you can see, housing, and other quality of life issues that affect us. And, his passion and his vision, when they come together, really, crystallize for me some of the issues that we work on a daily basis.
So as I said, we're a little bit of a path of the Greene County Economic Development Corporation and the county itself. And so the corporation is a 501c3 nonprofit, a local development corporation, chartered to lessen the burden of the government, but also utilize some resources and skills that are available to nonprofits. So we mainly focus on administering countywide community development block grant loan funds. We sort of focus on funding on large and more capital projects, and some that are focused on like our enterprise businesses. But the objective of that funding being deployed is job creation for moderate and so for every $5,000 that we are loan, there has to be one full-time low moderate income position benefiting from the. So as we are contributing to the job postings, and of course the back and the other economic development, we're trying to have that graph that have less relationship. Additionally, we administer countywide business marketing services. So if you see anything from buying green or investing green, that's Green County Columbia-Greene Incorporated by Eric Weiss, who does an excellent job in building businesses for the community, but also bringing individuals, entrepreneurs, and other businesses to the county, trying to do a lot of their entrepreneurial goals to come to county, invest in the county, establish businesses here. Additionally, because we are a nonprofit, we are the subrecipient of many economic development projects. So we are the subrecipient of community development project loan funds to distribute the loans, but we also work hand in hand with the county to lessen the burden of their resources to focus on right now doing Columbia-Greene doing coalition assessment or brownfield sites focused on site development. We also administer a micro enterprise grant program that we've been the subrecipient as well. And it's just a really strong partnership and the family organization. But really, the organization was created in 2019 as a private economic development resource by the county, so that public-private partnership is inherent. But working in sort of its own house, if you will, it allows us to, like I said, take advantage of resources that are available to nonprofits. But we work hand in hand with Greene County, Green County boards. We all sort of cohabitate in the government. And so us have a very comprehensive approach to our economic development initiatives across the county, and utilize the various ability sources at our disposal.
I think we also have a great partnership between James's office, Greene County Economic Development. We after all share a river, we share a bridge, we share a college, we share a hospital, and we also the Board of Realtors and other groups are Columbia-Greene, including Workforce New York. So we've been working very closely over the years, even before Greene County set up the not-for-profit economic development organization. CPDC is over 35 years old. It was formed by business leaders in the community for the purpose of advancing Columbia County's economy, making it a great place to live, and to increase the tax base to lower the burden on residential property owners. Our strategic plan calls for us to focus on entrepreneurship, infrastructure development, workforce development, and education, and quality of life. As you know, CPDC has been very active at the request of the Columbia County Board of Supervisors in addressing the broadband issue. 6 or 7 years ago, we were looking at almost 4,000 addresses that were not served by broadband. With the support of the supervisors, CEDC has been able to work through the 4 internet providers in the county, and we're down now to about 700 addresses. And we have about 200 that are work in progress with a USDA grant, and the rest we will be looking at in the context of the state and federal money that hopefully will come next year. I think the issue is going to be that those 500 addresses aren't served for a reason, because they're significantly costly to get to that last mile. In addition, the supervisors have asked us to work on affordable housing. As you know, in 2019, the median sale price of a house in Columbia County was $214,000. Last month, it was over $400,000. It's hard to go on the monthly median sale price because a couple of $1 million home sales can throw that out of whack. But the magnitude of that increase is clearly burdening the residents of the county, because when you look at the fact that the median household income is $70,000, and then you look at the recommendations that not spend more than 30% of your income on housing, you can't afford more than a $150,000 house, and there aren't. And I know it's hard. We're doing a survey through the housing task force that Board of Supervisors Chairman Matt Morrell established. Ron Knott is here, supervisor, who's the co-chair of that task force, with Supervisor Brenda Adams. And we are finding that people have offered jobs to people who can't find a place to live here, and they bring a job to go somewhere else. We've also been recently working on brownfield, as James indicated. We've been coordinating with the county on their upcoming climate forum on December 2nd from 1 college, and we're also working with the county planning department on another climate carnival next September 14th at the county fairgrounds. We're also both talking about solar and the issues of the smaller 5 megawatt solar projects, where they're generally on 5 acres in areas where they can bring that power production into the distribution system. We're kind of holding back on what's going to happen with some of these very large solar projects until the towns and where they're located resolve how they want to address those. So we're very much aware of home rule and the fact that we don't do much at all without checking with the supervisor in the town when someone calls us to work on a project or locate their business. And one of the things that we do, in addition to interfacing with the county and town leadership and departments, is we assist businesses who are looking to expand, looking to grow here, and looking to start a business in the county. And we have a small business loan fund in partnership with the FBA's micro business program and a county loan fund. And over the last, since 2015, we have made over 190 loans, over $4.6 million. And we provided technical assistance to over 600 businesses. So if you're looking to start a business or grow a business, we can provide through these funds up to 10 hours of consulting time to help you put the business plan together, or to set up your QuickBooks or your website. And we can also loan you $2,000 at currently Martha Lane, who runs the program. Our rate is 7.5% on a 5 to 7 year or 10 year basis. So if you're in business and you're looking to get that extra piece of equipment, or you're looking to start a business, we would be happy to fund you. So I think we're also working on a regional basis. Columbia-Greene County are fortunate. We're kind of in 2 regions. We look south to patterns of progress, and I know many of you have heard Adam Bosch, the president of pattern speak, on many of the issues we're talking about today. We also look more at the, Center for Economic Growth, and the 8 counties, including Columbia-Greene, are in the capital region economic development, region. And over the past, 11 years of that program, both counties have received significant money. Columbia County over $50 million. And we work very closely with not-for-profits and businesses and others who are municipalities in their fund. So if you are looking on the next round of funding, give us a call. James got ahead of us and got a micro enterprise program before we did, and not that we're competitive.
It's careful.
But so we thought it would be a good additional benefit because it's a grant program that can be backed up by a loan program. And finally, we've been working on Columbia Forward. It's a program that the Board of Supervisors set up, and it's a partnership between Columbia Economic Development and the Columbia County Chamber, and so Phil Ehrlich and this year, as well as Mark Finger, the board chair. And before I turn it back over to James, I want to recognize our board chair, Dave King. Wow,
Yeah. Yeah, just after one might say, we've worked, since coming out of this division in August 2022, so I'm still relatively new. And I think one of the first people I met was Mike, coming to the college event, and the first thing we started talking about was how do we build or strengthen the figure for it, to make sure that we can have a strong partnership and that we succeed as a we can share all these resources and access to those sense. So we've been able to work on a lot of different initiatives, and I'll point Mike's loan program again, that SBA micro loan program that they're able to communities and fantastic resource that also covers Greene County as well. So Martha and I work back and forth pretty strongly to get applicants out there. Combined between both their branch programs involved in all of those programs, for businesses. So, and then of course, family free county. So, really great research. I want to put my public hat on a little bit, talk about some of the background, special initiatives that we're doing across Greene County. And just to give a little more context to how that's doing us in the specific situations I know that's relevant. So, Greene County, population just less than 50,000 people. 2023 sales tax budget, which largely funds many of our activities to keep a healthy tax base. It was budgeted at $37 million, although statistically far above that for the past decade or so. We're able to clear that with significant overages along with the fund balance and contribute that different initiatives that I'm going to. A lot of the contributors to that really echoes the backbone of the workforce. We've got major investments on the private side. Mainly towards the at scale, the James Newberry Hotel, just so Saki, y'all Thomas Wall historic site, Wild Wyndham, and all that is really brought together by an effective, extremely effective marketing strategy with more and that we have administrative. So those marketing campaigns paired with the private investment that we're seeing in that is really uplifting a lot of sales tax over the season. Additionally to that, we recently had a report that was astounding in terms of 2022 spend, which at the end of the year brought to $280 million that is just spent in Greene County. We're starting to $8 million since last year and $90 million for next year. So we are definitely seeing many of the a huge resilience in the tourism sector, which is excellent coming out of the pandemic because that's cyclical as an industry that is. We see very strong gains. But I want to get more to what most of the things later. Greene County has a 3.5% unemployment rate, which really over the past few years has been budgeted that flat. Cyclical when it comes into the seasons. Of course, we see a little uptick in the numbers when it comes to the winter time. And of course, we that in summer they have sort blacks back out. Top three non-farm sectors component in government, hospitality, and retail trade. Not surprisingly, you see the private investment dollars in the sectors that those are going for. Our workforce is mainly high school educated, so we're going to see a lot of focus on trades, and again, that is going to be retail sector, which is helpful. And Mike, I'm sure we're going to talk about this a few times today, but component of area median income, which is a snapshot of the average household income for that year, largely compounded with inflation rates. This year is $93,000. So your average family or household for how you look at it, for about $93,000. For reference, last year in Greene County, that was 78 change. So it went up about $40,000 per year, and that of course affects how families being classified income classes, how housing opportunities can relate back to that. But so it is still a lot of it.
I'm not that old.
Based on precedent, we can see a $40,000 spike in AMI, especially in terms of the previous county to take a look at. Housing, those 30,000 feet. So our median home price in quarter three 2023 was $350,000. At the end of 2023 was $325,000. 2018 median sales price was $179,000. So in 5 years, it's right up 81%. A lot of that has to do with, of course, far greater amount of pressure on the demand side and the supply side of the market. We're seeing prices get a little bit like that. That can come back to you, of course, population inflation for your incomes. We also have a little bit short term trend in the supply as well. So some communities across the county are really early and having regulations when it comes to building inspections, permits of what can be allowed under the municipal zoning rules. But the building stock is actually one of the examples a local area that's trying to cut that. Earlier this year, we were able to publish our workforce housing assessment. I know to share that we went with for it's been on the website. We've been able to publish it. And they found 4 major levels. One is little new construction activity is one meaning of housing across the county, with the exception of the newer building in the town of Paso. There are no examples of new construction happening across the county. We're trying to create comps to look at when it comes to just even anything to establish aspects. So if you look at market values or total project cost, we have to go to the region and make lists that are above that. So 120% of that assets. Additionally, rental housing is not affordable nor available. That goes back to the rental pricing, again, not being that way. Housing has become increasingly unattainable. We go back to the median sales price in 2018 $179,000. The increase is only affordable to 120 to 160% of that AMI, and very high interest rates is still becoming unattainable for the workforce. And the most compelling portion of that study is that Greene County's most advanced workers are flex talent. The majority of the top growing occupations are that the top growing position in demand in the next 10 years. And making it $25 an hour. They're not going to land because of what I'm doing. It's the housing number right now. So, continue. Chris is good as well, but we are actually Greene County Economic Development is establishing many public and private partnerships with other development partners, including the Greene County Behavioral and Renee over there to and include Chiefs Columbia. We're working with New York State Home Renewal, Community Preservation Corporation, specifically development incentive packages, because if we're able to create incentive packages that are attractive enough to developers to come in, the bottom line peaceful numbers become more realistic. At the end of the day, these housing developers need to come in, they need to make them not, they need to make a return. Whether or not they're expressed in low-income housing tax credit funding opportunities, or they're expressed in other compelling, creative financing solutions. When everything on the table, we have to deal with that developers and we don't want what's happening. So one specific example of that is April, y'all are developing a housing pilot. So trying to take the conventional pilot system of attracting industrial partners and establishing minimum taxes, being able to attract workforce housing developers at that same rate should give them a new untapped incentive to bring to the table. So we're working on doing that, but we're wanting the housing study to say there's need, there's demand, work with us, help find some incentive packages. Come during time, people can work together. Additionally, to that, with some special initiatives across the county, the county has an extensive history of investing in infrastructure and furthering shovel-ready sites, which is the other side of that coin for developers. They want to have a site that has a market, a good shovel in the ground, the infrastructure is there, but it's easy for them to build something they want to do in seconds. So, largely led by the economic development for the planning department, we deployed a broadband extension with last mile coverage. The county funding deployed the remainder of the unserved houses across the county. It's expected to be finished by mid-2024 or mid-2025. As far as industrial development, we are also looking to expand sewer and water extension with IBA and Carroll to an industrial site off of 23. It's $1 billion project. We have a natural gas line for municipal utilities that exit northeast and northwest sites. It's coming out of Catskill. You're right, they're right there. It's a site of our new tourism center and this workshop and healing developments. But that was done with a public-private partnership with Green County IDA to a little over $2 million. Additionally, the county is investing in the Columbia Preserve, in field house improvements of $1.3 million, shoreline stabilization and historic Catskill building, $1 million. The new Green County Tourism Center at exit 21 east to further bolster tourism development. Stores were building up the buildings, they were able to rebuild and restructure that. That's a $2 million project. And additionally, the county is spearheading the development of the Justice Center and building Catskill, which is just over $28 billion. So the county is largely, as we're trying to attract developers, commercial, residential, industrial, we're also putting our money where our mouth is, for lack of a better term. And just over the past few years and into the next few years, we're rolling out over $35 million just to do that. So we're able to do that because of a very strong tax base. We're able to do this because I know there's new conversation about sustainable economic development. We see that largely as new projects like this to keep the tax levy low and at least keep that quality of life part of living within the county as predictable as possible. So I can continue talking all day now, but I know that there's a few minutes. So
Thank you. In Columbia County, we currently have 61,000 people. The most interesting thing is that there are 33,000 housing units. 72% of those are owner occupied, and about 70% of them were built before 1950. And so you have a situation where, with the economy and the pressures on working families, it's very difficult for them to keep the maintenance and condition of those homes at a level to allow those properties to be sustainable for a long period of time. We have been working with the state on programs that will provide funding for repairs to the home. And I think the other telling statistic from the Census Bureau's most recent data was that 2022 building permits for housing in Columbia County were only 95 properties. So I think that I was at a housing conference earlier this week in the Adirondacks. There's no one solution And, there are several newspaper articles that talk about the fact, the headline is affordable housing, mission impossible. I think that, look at the infrastructure issues that we have in Columbia County, there are only 6 sewer districts in the county, so that we're not able to, develop multi-family housing in a way that would, essentially quickly, address the problem. And in many cases, communities, look at, multi-family housing, in a way that, it's not something they feel is within the character of the. The other issue, and James and I have talked about this, is if you're a developer and you come to Columbia County to build 40 or 60 units, you can go to, the lower Hudson Valley or the Capital Region, and you can build 150 units, and your soft costs are about the same. And so you're in a situation where the efficiency and economic, profit driven of building multi-family housing or even single-family housing, is very good. Also, as you know, with the cost of construction materials and labor, there used to be able to think you could get a house for $200 a square foot. Point, between the cost of land going up and the cost of construction, it's very different. We've been working with Valencia, the Habitat for Humanity. They have just received $1.5 million state grant focused on the housing issues in the county. And we are also through the Columbia Board of Supervisory Housing Task Force. Supervisors just approved the formation of a land bank. And the land bank will enable the county to take properties that are either zombie properties, as they call them, or properties that may have been undergoing to a tax roll, and transfer them to the land bank for redevelopment. There's no one solution to affordable housing. The discussion at the conference that I attended talked about the fact that we have to find public-private partnerships to fill the gap, so that someone can only afford the $150,000 house and the property is going to cost $200,000. Somehow the state's going to have to step in, like they do for low-income housing, and bridge that gap. People who are working families. I think that so we're focused on the tourism issue as well, and the state report that James mentioned for 2022 in Columbia County, visitors spent $237 million. There was a 13% increase over the previous year, and a 33% increase over the 2019 number. I think we all saw the surge of existing second home owners and new second home owners and people who just came up here and got a monthly Airbnb during the pandemic, and they learned that they could work here during the year, during the week, and maybe have a smaller apartment in New York City or co-op, and they come instead of Friday night, Sunday night, they're coming Thursday. I think that's driven our sales tax up. Our county treasurer, Dave Giller, is here. I had a conversation with him after I looked at the numbers, and Cooper and I from the county tourism office watched these numbers closely, but there was some kind of an adjustment that the state made, and our sales tax went up significantly from 2019 to 2021. But it's still at a higher level than in the past. More interesting data is that tourism spending in Columbia County did generate $13 million in local sales tax. That represents, according to the study, a savings of about $1,000 per household. But you know how studies sometimes extrapolate and distort the results. The purpose of their our business focus is agribusiness, the creative economy. We have a lot of people here who have big jobs. They can work from home, they can work in a one-room office, they can work in a shared space. We also have people who have big jobs there are people who have day jobs who also, in order to make, ends meet, have, a second job or a third job. Because of the large, we're up to about 4,200 second home. I think there's an underground economy, of people who are providing, services, year-round, that second homeowners, it doesn't get picked up in the unemployment numbers. Columbia County, as of the September numbers issued this week, with the unemployment rate of 3% down to 2.7. So, you know, we're still in that 600 to 800 number. And I think one of the issues is goes back to workforce and education, and we work very closely with the school superintendent, Star, Star, on education, workforce, with Chris as well. And we find that the people who, good number of the people who are unemployed are people who lack any skills. And need to be able to have training and have the opportunity to ultimately to get into a very good apprenticeship. Tourism and hospitality, we have over 90 small manufacturers. Most of our manufacturers either make a component part for someone or they assemble component parts that they purchase from others into an end product. And then obviously retail and service businesses, and then we all the mega economic drivers, government, healthcare, and education. So I think that we are very strapped by the lack of infrastructure. The difficulty with expanding infrastructure is the planning that has to go in it, the environmental review, then getting the grant to be able to build it. The state does provide funding, but generally it's interest-free loans for 30 years. And there's not enough people in a condensed area to justify building a sewer system. We don't have that critical mass. The cost of maintaining it becomes an issue that no one wants to vote to have a sewer system where the cost of the bond and the cost of operations are going to significantly increase very fast. We had Columbia EDC, the administrative director for the Columbia County Industrial Development Agency, as well as the City of Hudson IDA. Last year, we did over $75 million of IDA projects in the City of Hudson. And we have done several projects at the county level. In Hudson, there were 2 hotels, there was a 70-unit affordable housing project that's groundbreaking today behind the Depot Brewery from the Galvin Corporation Foundation. And we have a number of projects planned. As we know, the IDA has the ability to provide mortgage reporting tax exemption, sales tax exemption on construction, $10 million project, sales tax exemption. About 60% of the project costs are sales tax eligible. So that's a $480,000 incentive for the mortgage tax is 1.25%. You also are eligible to apply for a payment in lieu of tax agreement, which under state law has to be based on a uniform schedule. There can be deviation, but there has to be strong economic development for that. I think that out in the county, our Columbia Forward program with the Chamber has enabled us to raise the visibility of both organizations in terms of what we can provide the services, resources, concierge services, and we like to be a place where people call first, and it's not something that is in our wheelhouse, but we have the knowledge, ability, and relationship to be able to connect them with resources that exist either at the federal, state, or otherwise.
I have some questions prepared if nobody wants to talk, but all right, we've got our first question. You're in the mic in front of you. If you could talk into that so we can catch it on the recording, that would be great. I don't think it's funny. No.
Welcome to you.
Thank you, and thank you all. The The metaphor I'm gonna use is the five blind Indians and the elephant. Five blind Indians go upon an elephant, which is a wise thing, I don't know, that's the way I heard it. One touches the tail and says an elephant is like a rope, one touches the trunk, there's an elephant is like a snake, one touches, etc. The point is, everybody looks at the elephant, but they're seeing a different elephant. I think much of what we're talking about, and what I'm not hearing back from when compared to my experience, is a culture disconnect. And I think a lot of the issues fall under that. There is still a culture of, this is how we do it here. And I can't speak to this side of the river, I'm speaking about Greene County. There is still a culture of, this is how we've done it, this is how we do it, this is the way we've always done it. And it is coming up against the, hey, this is lovely up here, we just rediscovered it after the pandemic, we'd love to spend our time here, it's terrific. There is a clash that's happening there, like two tectonic plates, and the friction is causing a lot of problems. Some of them are problems, I think, will be taken care of by the evolution of a market. Some of it is we're at the leading edge. There is a change that is happening right now. You can't fix it all. You can't get out ahead of it. It's just going to take a while to work through. But what I'm not hearing are things like the composition. It used to be 3 or more generations living one house, dozens of people on one property. Schools were full. They are not full. And I think that is captured by the change in the economic change. People who are coming up here who want to spend money, and by the way, who need a place to stay. And if we don't have a hotel, then I want as many short-term rentals here, putting those people in there who can pay the $25 an hour to the people who are going to work in the restaurant. It all is connected, and I think we're not capturing we're not seeing the slow downward motion of the way it was and all the things that come under that, because I'm seeing my reality. I'm seeing so many people who should be working. I walked in when I think you were saying something along the lines of, it's not people who don't want to work, but it is. I got 50 units, and I got at any given time, 20 to 30% of my tenants are like, oh, I lost them. Oh, they're mean to me. Oh, a million excuses. But at the end of the month, I got 20% or more people who aren't paying their rent and who aren't motivated to get off their butts. So I think there's a mental health issue. There's a culture issue. These people look to their left and their right and they go, well, nobody else is doing that. So why am I going to get off my butt? So these people aren't captured in your AMI. They're existing in our market because they can and they always have. So until that culture changes, and it won't change, it's not going to change with a bunch of single and double occupancy, 2 people, 1 person family constructs coming up here and living in a short-term rental. The people that I'm seeing wouldn't be living in those short-term, what has been converted to short-term rentals. Also, we've got a baby boom generation that is living 1 and 2 people to a house that historically had a dozen people in it. You could also take a half-hour drive to Greene County and find dozens of distressed properties where nobody is living there. They're just houses that are falling apart. Why aren't we focused on repairing, renovating those and putting people in those? Because these are some of the things that I'm not hearing.
Yeah,
I get a lot of what you're saying, but I feel like there's 2 different worlds.
I think, and I don't mean to jump in on you guys, but I think a part of that, and I'll kind of speak to one thing at a time. The vacant houses, I think there's a combination of a lack of political will to actually engage in the redevelopment of those, and also the impact of people that are the NIMBY banana, as James Hannes taught me, to build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything crowd. So I think when you have the combination of those 2 things, where the political will to develop low income specifically, because what you're talking about isn't workforce housing, right? The demographic that you're talking about is low income
You put
housing.
100 Get rid of this out and that online, it changes the market.
Yeah, absolutely. If you pull 100 short-term rentals out of the market, it changes the market too, right? And I think there's a political will to address the short-term rentals, whereas those building low-income housing is a non-starter here generally. Even selling workforce housing to anyone is impossible, right? Because the connotation is that workforce housing is filled with a demographic of people doesn't fit in the communities at large in which we're trying to develop them, right? So if someone comes up from the city and pays $450,000 for a home that was $180,000, they don't do it to live next door to a low income or workforce housing development, right? So when you have this mix of the influx of people who have influenced the political landscape and impacted it in such a way that prevents the development of low-income workforce housing, you get that situation where there's derelict homes because nobody wants those homes developed into housing in their neighborhood, in their vicinity. And I think from my perspective, what I've seen because I see the same thing, there are obviously places to build, there's obviously things that we can do, but you have to sell that to the communities. When you try to build a development for those people that don't want to work, those 100 people that don't want to work, there is immediately resistance, right? The community around them gets a lawyer and is standing at the planning board meetings, preventing development. And that to develop those situations. So it goes back, I think, from my perspective, and I'll let these guys talk, to advocacy. If we want that, then we need to advocate with the people that represent us and say, let's not listen to the people who don't want anything built anywhere near anything. Let's build it. Let's develop the community that existed here prior to the colonization that we're experiencing now. That's my response.
Other question? Claire?
What incentive exists for businesses or people? Promote that to like retail. I think some of what folks are talking about is, the world of work is actually, you want to feel value, you want to feel invested in, you want to see a path to a career. That doesn't exist with low level, a low playing ground. So I want to know.
Another one today. Yeah. So I think from a workforce development perspective, there are incentives to train incumbent workers into those positions. The resistance that we've seen from those same employers is we're now creating a vacuum at the bottom of their organizational structure that is not fillable by the population that we have here. So we trained over the past few years tons of LPNs that used to be CNAs, and the feedback we would get from the employers, from the nursing homes and the healthcare facilities is like, now I don't have any CNAs, right? And while there are CNAs that you can kick up to LPNs, there are no non-CNAs that want to come in and become CNAs. So I think the way that we're going to have to approach this, likely in my opinion, is from an organizational perspective, like the business or the employer, and this is only half answering your question, but the employer or the business has to figure out whether or not the person at the bottom of their structure is more valuable at the bottom of their structure, and then compensate and treat that person in a way that reflects that. Or you have to invest in the bottom of your structure to bring it up to the middle, and then hope or create incentives to bring people in. From a workforce development perspective, we can't necessarily provide those incentives. So the organization has to make the decision, make a conscious strategic decision to put the effort into making those low skill, low wage positions maybe potentially less low wage and support working families. Also potentially labor unions, right? I'll just put that out there, right? Is a way for, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting, is a way for the employee themselves to take some control at the bottom of the structure. So I think between those two things, there's at least a mechanism from an economics perspective to make that shift.
I think that's what's on the platform. It's like last time we had a forum like this, gap. I think that's still a lot of it don't see the value because of the vaccine, but people feel like they're working for. So that culture that people say, folks don't want to work there. So how do we address it?
Well, the organization, the business also has to balance the fact that it's designed for the lowest structure to be paid the least, right? So it's that the cost of that is eventually going to be passed on to the consumer, and you're going to hit resistance from the consumer at some point. So I was at the Economic Development, Workforce and Education Committee last year and asked the question, like, who's our customer? Is our customer the business? Should we be supporting the business, or should we be supporting the worker at the business? Because those two, the interests are opposed. So if our job collectively as a group of people at a workforce forum, is that we need to support the working person in their interests that are opposed to the business interests, then I think we take a different approach collectively if that's our decision. Whereas if economic growth and the lifting the top and rising tides lifting all ships, so to speak, if that's the position that we collectively as a community want to take, then that's going to be a different set of different motion for our system. So, and I know I'm only half answering your question, but I think it's because there's not a good answer, right? The lowest rungs of the organization are the wage pressure, the upward pressure on wages has lifted those people up. But compared to oftentimes the rest of the structure, they're still substantially lower. But they are also the most vital. So I think, and unfortunately, from a systems perspective, I don't know that there's much from a policy perspective that we could do to address that. Increasing minimum wages just doesn't seem to work past a certain level very well. So I think the system, the group here should relay that to the organizations and offer them options to support those low income workers.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I want to make a little bit, Chris, about they're actually free, not included in that. There are actually a lot of more money, state and federal government build market, new market housing, then we get that again. Figure out how to allow that. We keep the only developer in county that can't continue. We can fill up on the market, but there has to be more creativity. We can find it. What this housing is, it's an outcome. You need to stop using that element. It's middle market housing, and it's really we're failing with that. It's most of us working and really dying, and they can't.
That was happening in my career. Watch the technology that was used. Of course, it's difficult to go to a community and say we want to build low-income housing. What's the connotation that comes with that terminology? Different terminology, mid-wage. That's huge. That's a completely different thing. I was in the resources director for Greene County. My employees can't afford to live in our county. I can't hire anybody for what we're doing if they're coming from out of county. They already live here and own their home for 3 years, that's great. Most of us can't afford to buy the homes that we live in. So I think it's about a change in mindset and the kind of housing that we need. Low income housing has a terrible connotation and it always has. Culturally, for whatever reason, and especially in county, we have been one of the poorest counties in New York State for many, many years. That is starting to change. We do an influx of people in more economic development. But historically, when we talk about low income housing in Greene County, there are certain places that come to mind, and nobody is going to want to go back in that regard. We're talking about mid-wage housing for our workforce, for our government workforce, for our highway employees, for our corrections officers. Totally different.
When you're addressing municipalities and trying to get behind or even advocating from a county perspective, there's different levels of tolerance in each of the respective municipalities to build any sort of housing. So with the mindsets and have low-income friendly mindsets. The part that I, at least in Greene County, I focused on, because I feel a lot of this, discrepancy found in such a lack of inventory, period, across the board. And if we're to focus on the balance between finding a solution that is tolerable to municipalities while adding inventory, you're starting to chip away at some of the discrepancies. So you're starting to bring in also viable development projects that other developers can see and say, okay, we do a project in Green County. And we see the result of that, I think the tolerance becomes more palatable for those decision makers. So when we're talking about low income versus affordable versus workforce, just objectively for income limits, 30, 60, 80 income limits. And I know more tolerance for income limits and workforce housing limit of 80 to 120%. That does capture a lot of people who are already on sale. Start to go with that. Then there are other programs and other organizations that focus on low income housing in both counties, and we look at this, but we're not going to focus on those lower income housing projects that have experience and capacity to apply for a lot of those funding streams that allow them to have really a lot of knowledge. So from our current perspective, I think it's something that at least adds an influence to the
This sounds like a conversation at the Columbia County Board of Supervisors, housing task force, and we encourage all of you to participate in those monthly meetings. We're on the third Wednesday, or the last Wednesday of the month. And not, but it is, going back to Al's point, it's going to be a patchwork quilt of solutions. It's not 2 units here and 4 units there. It's going to be a strategy that finds individual, state, and federal funding, private sector funding, and a way to attract developers to get there.
So we've got time for one more. I'm gonna, Florence had her hand up, so we'll go there, and then I just want to give these guys a chance to say any closing statements before we go.
Also, more than people not wanting to work, I think sometimes
That's the last two things on my list for conversation about that.
So just in closing, I didn't mean to jump in. So where, from James and Mike, where do you see us in 5 years? And we'll close with that. Where are Columbia-Greene counties in 5 years?
I started to work on it.
To develop a sustainable economy, it has to be integrated with all the things that have been discussed here today. It's got to be with social service, it's got to be the complete spectrum of the community. That's why we're focused on entrepreneurship, to build businesses, make them stronger, enable them to grow so that they can not only pay people fair wage, but also to hire additional people. When we look at the infrastructure focus at CEDC, we realize that we have aging infrastructure and we have areas that have no infrastructure. And water, sewer, gas, electric, and broadband all in the same location is hard to find. So we have to continue to work with the individual towns and their planning boards and their elected officials to identify what they want and then work to get it. Because otherwise the fight of to end up at the end of the day is going to be too hard. I think we also have to focus on a great quality of life here. People want to be here. The people who are here love to be here. And I think we do have to work a little more. Yesterday at the Chamber breakfast, there was a comment about young professionals and how they would be more encouraged to stay in the region or back to the region. And I think that's an area that Bill Girl and I have talked about focusing on with Columbia forward. And finally, workforce in education and this need to be strengthened, and the resources from the governor's workforce development funding program. We need to access those funds to continue to provide workforce training across the board, and particularly at the lowest level, so that there is someone to become a CNA when the CNA becomes the next level.
I said this when I first sat down with Berkeley and Scott here, and I've been involved in economic development service for chamber, they really got here, I think the economic development side of things, was higher than January of 2021, so it's obviously changed very much. And, Mike, Chris, any other folks who are currently involved in the Saturday industry for a while, but if you look back a few years, economic development is much less about housing, the impact of housing, it's much more housing, workforce housing, anything that impacts the workforce, very important to the community development side of it. For the recent years, it's coming up quickly, but not as quickly as it happened being accelerated by the pandemic. Great, so I see us moving forward in the economic development perspective, having housing reform, and then the main driving factor that is going to be impacting our ability for population growth or continued sales tax growth or continued infrastructure development is really going to lean on who the hell are they going to live. That has to completely drive the majority of decision making when it comes to economic development projects. And so when we're talking about the business attraction side of things, I want to see Greene County become more attractive for a bigger variety of employers. Where agricultural, we are very much focused on small retail development and large tourism developments. But if we don't find another job provider that's in a complementary or even an unrelated industry that can sustain growth while tourism sector may be down, the housing crisis is simply just going to get the gap is going to be very wide. So I truly agree with Mike that the partnership, the education partnership, lead into that. But economic development housing are going to be major spearhead agencies when it comes to providing more place housing.
Well, thank you so much, James and Mike. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I think there was an important point about cultural friction that we should take with us because there is obviously a cultural divide here that is definitely contributing to it. But thank you all for coming. Thank you, James and Mike, and we'll see you soon at the next roundtable.
Yeah. January, I'll be back to. No, because I have to, the governor is like. Then when I back I thought I'm ready to go. We volunteer when getting your radiation. Yeah, that was on with me. Well done.
Many lives all love.
It's scary. It's a part of what we're talking about. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but. But I'm talking. I can take that. That recycle bin. Okay. The younger kids can sing. Afraid.
I've gotta get Spencer.
Right. I was spending.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Like it was a really great event. Those guys, they're great. You know, they know what they're talking about. So, and then I just kind of stop my feet and tell everybody the sky's falling, and then leave it open for like the economic boom. Oh yeah, hot mics everywhere all the time. No, it's all right.
I appreciate being brought up. I don't know him personally, but I'm familiar with Patterns for Progress. And I read the state of labor report.
Yeah,
Out of Bosch.
he's really great, and I know Mike Tucker has him around all the time, and he comes to a lot of events at the college. He's a smart guy, but we're all saying the same thing, right? Everybody's saying the same stuff. He's just really handsome and says it really. Oh, it's funny.
No. Did I misunderstood one of the research points you had about, I'm trying to address the narrative. I know that the narrative of a lot of influential people is pretty popular now. But the report from the Department of Labor, Patterns of Progress provided was that in the Hudson Valley as a whole, the population